has a way of marking us, shaping us in ways we never expected. It creeps in like an uninvited guest, settling into the deepest parts of our souls. It steals our peace, our joy, sometimes even our will to keep pressing forward. We ask, why me? Why this burden? Why this heartache? We look around and see others smiling, thriving, while we are left to carry wounds no one else can see. But what if the pain was never meant to break us? What if every tear we shed, every storm we faced, was a part of a greater design? What if the struggles we endure were never meant to define us, but to refine us? There is something powerful about suffering when it is placed in the right hands. There is something holy about hardship when it is seen through the eyes of purpose. You see, pain doesn't knock. It doesn't wait for permission to enter. It rushes in like a thief in the night, stealing the comfort we once knew. It wraps itself around us, whispering lies that tell us we are forgotten, unloved, alone. It tells us that we are nothing more than the weight of our struggles. And for a while, we might believe it. We might sit in the ruins, convinced that the sun will never rise again. But oh, if only we knew what was being woven in the silence. If only we knew that the very pain we wish to escape is the same pain that will shape us into something greater than we ever imagined. There is a fire that comes with suffering, a fire that burns away all that is weak and fragile within us. It forces us to dig deeper, to search for meaning where there seems to be none. It strips us down to the core, leaving us raw, exposed, vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, in that brokenness, something begins to shift. It is in those moments of desperation that the foundation of purpose is laid. Not in the laughter, not in the ease of life, but in the dark, in the struggle, in the wilderness of uncertainty. Think of the moments when you have been on your knees, hands trembling, heart weary. Think of the nights when the weight of your sorrow felt too heavy to carry. Did you not learn something in that place? Did you not find a strength you never knew you had? That is where transformation begins. That is where purpose is born. Pain has a way of birthing something divine if we allow it to. If we stop resisting and start listening, we will hear something greater calling us forward. It is not easy to trust in the midst of suffering. It is not easy to believe that something good can come from heartbreak, from loss, from rejection. But if you look back over your life, if you trace the steps that led you to this very moment, you will see that every tear, every hardship, every valley had a purpose. You will see that what once seemed like destruction was in fact construction. Something was being built within you, something strong, something unshakable. The world may tell you to avoid pain, to numb it, to bury it deep, but there is no healing in avoidance. There is no growth in denial. True transformation happens when we face the fire and walk through it, knowing that we will not be consumed. And when we emerge, we do not emerge empty-handed. We carry wisdom, we carry resilience, we carry a story that has the power to change not just our own lives, but the lives of those around us. Pain is not meant to be wasted. It is not meant to be hidden away like a shameful secret. It is meant to be shared, to be used, to be a testament of what is possible when we refuse to be broken by the things that were meant to destroy us. It is in our struggles that we find our deepest calling. It is in our suffering that we discover the strength to lift others out of their own darkness. So when you find yourself in the midst of hardship, when the weight of life feels unbearable, remember this: you are not being buried, you are being planted. What looks like an ending is only the beginning of something greater. What feels like loss is making room for something new. Every struggle, every tear, every moment of doubt is shaping you, preparing you for the purpose that has been waiting for you all along. Do not despise the fire. Do not curse the storm. They are forging you, molding you turning your pain into purpose. And when you finally step into that purpose, when you look back and see the path that led you there, you will understand. You will see that every moment of suffering was not in vain. It was all part of something far greater than you ever imagined. Pain is a language we all understand, yet it speaks to each of us differently. It carves deep into the soul, sometimes whispering, sometimes roaring. It shows no mercy, pressing itself into our chests, weighing us down until we wonder if we will ever rise again. It wraps itself around our memories, staining them with sorrow, making us believe that our best days are behind us. And yet, even in the midst of our darkest nights, there is a stirring, a pull, a shift, an invitation to step beyond the suffering and into something greater. But to reach it, we must be willing to see our struggles through a new lens. There is no victory without battle, no wisdom without hardship, no transformation without fire. Yet when we find ourselves in the thick of it, when pain grips us with its unrelenting force, we question everything. We look at our reflection and wonder if we are strong enough, if we are worthy enough, if we are even meant to endure. We cry out for relief, desperate for an answer, desperate for the weight to be lifted. But what if the answer is not in the removal of the pain, but in what the pain is producing within us? What if we are being refined, shaped, molded into something unbreakable? What if our wounds are not meant to weaken us, but to strengthen us for something greater? We often see struggle as a detour, an interruption, an obstacle in the path of where we were meant to go. We grieve the life we thought we would have, the path we believed was ours. We mourn the loss of what was, unaware that what is coming is far greater than anything we could have imagined. Because pain does not take without giving, it does not break without rebuilding, it does not tear down without planting something new. But in order to receive the beauty that is being born from our suffering, we must be willing to let go of the version of life we thought we needed. There is something extraordinary about a person who has been through the fire and come out stronger. They do not move the way they used to. They do not speak the way they used to. They do not fear the way they used to. Because once you have known the depths of suffering and survived, you understand that there is nothing this world can throw at you that you cannot overcome. There is a different kind of wisdom that comes from enduring what should have broken you. There is a power that comes from standing when you had every reason to fall. That kind of strength does not come from ease. It does not come from a life untouched by hardship. It is built in the struggle, in the storm, in the very moments when you thought you could not go on. Think about the hardest moments of your life, the nights you wept until no more tears would come, the days you moved through the world as a shadow of yourself, exhausted, weary, on the verge of giving up. Think about the moments when you questioned whether you had the strength to take another step, and yet here you are, still standing, still breathing, still moving forward. Even when you thought you wouldn't make it, you did. Even when you thought the weight was too much to carry, you carried it. And while you may not yet see it, something was being built in you in those moments. Something powerful, something sacred, something unshakable. Pain is not the end of the story. It is not the final chapter, not the defining moment of your existence. It is a passage, a bridge, a refining fire that shapes you into the person you were always meant to be. But we must stop seeing our struggles as punishment and start seeing them as preparation, because there is a purpose that only you can fulfill, a calling that only you can answer. And everything you have walked through, every tear, every heartbreak, every sleepless night, is equipping you for that purpose. But the greatest tragedy is not the suffering itself. It is the belief that the suffering was meaningless, that it was for nothing, that it was a waste. There is nothing more heartbreaking than a person who has survived the fire but refuses to step into the purpose it was meant to ignite. Because pain should never be wasted. It should never be buried, never be hidden, never be silenced. It should be transformed, shaped into something beautiful, something powerful, something that lifts others out of their own darkness. The world is full of people who are drowning in their suffering, convinced that they are alone, that no one understands, that no one sees them. But when someone who has walked through the same fire stands up and says, I have been there, I have felt that, I have known that darkness, and yet here I am on the other side, something shifts. Hope is born, chains begin to break. Because suddenly, the pain does not feel as heavy. Suddenly, the struggle does not feel as isolating. Suddenly, the idea of making it through seems possible. That is the power of turning pain into purpose. It is not just about surviving. It is about using what you have endured to light the way for someone else. It is about stepping out of the ashes and saying, this pain will not be in vain. This suffering will not be the end of my story. I will rise, and in my rising, I will lift others with me. It is not easy. It is not comfortable. It requires courage, vulnerability, and a willingness to be open about the battles you have fought. It requires a strength that does not come from avoidance, but from facing the pain head on and saying, you will not defeat me. But when we choose to do this, when we choose to take the very thing that tried to break us and use it to bring light to others, we step into something far greater than we ever imagined. There is no pain without purpose. There is no suffering that cannot be redeemed. There is no darkness so great that it cannot be transformed into light. But we must be willing to trust the process. We must be willing to believe that even when we do not understand, even when we cannot see the full picture, something good is being woven from our struggles. So do not curse your pain. Do not wish away your struggle. Do not see your wounds as signs of weakness, but as evidence of survival. They are proof that you have walked through the fire and come out stronger. Proof that you have endured what should have broken you. Proof that you are being shaped for something greater. And when you finally step into that purpose, when you finally see the beauty that has been born from your suffering, you will understand. You will see that every hardship, every loss, every battle was not in vain. It was all leading you to something far beyond what you could have ever imagined. Pain has a way of demanding attention. It does not ask politely to be noticed, nor does it slip quietly into the background. It roars, it aches, it burns into the soul until we have no choice but to confront it. We try to run from it, to numb it, to pretend it does not exist. We distract ourselves, busy ourselves, fill our days with noise in an attempt to drown it out. But pain is persistent. It will wait for us in the silence. It will find us in the stillness. It will whisper in the moments when we are alone with our thoughts, when there is nothing left to shield us from its presence. And yet, as unbearable as it seems, pain is not the enemy. The enemy is the belief that it serves no purpose. Too many walk through life convinced that their suffering is meaningless, that the heartbreak, the disappointments, the betrayals were for nothing, that the weight they carry is simply a burden they must endure without reason or resolution. But that is the greatest deception, because there is no suffering that is wasted, no hardship that does not shape us, no pain that does not leave behind something of value. Even the wounds we would rather forget, even the moments we wish had never happened, they all play a role in shaping the person we are becoming. Pain has a way of revealing us to ourselves. It strips away the masks we wear, the illusions we cling to, the false sense of control we believe we have. It lays us bare, vulnerable, exposed. And in that exposure, we have a choice. We can allow the pain to harden us, to make us bitter, resentful, closed off to the world, or we can allow it to soften us, to open us, to deepen our understanding of ourselves and those around us. Some of the most powerful souls you will ever encounter are the ones who have known deep suffering, the ones who have walked through fire and come out with a compassion that cannot be taught, a wisdom that cannot be bought, a strength that cannot be shaken. They have learned to turn their wounds into wells of healing, not just for themselves, but for others. They do not merely survive their pain, they transform it. They take what was meant to destroy them and use it to build something greater. But that transformation does not happen by accident. It is a choice, a conscious, deliberate choice to look pain in the eye and say, "You will not break me. You will not define me. You will not be the end of my story." It is a decision to seek meaning in the suffering, to trust that even when we cannot see the purpose, there is one. To believe that even in the darkest moments, something is being shaped, something is being prepared, something is being made new. It is not easy. There will be days when it feels impossible, days when the weight of it all feels too heavy to carry, days when we want nothing more than to give up, to sink into despair, to accept that the pain is all there is. But those are the moments when we must hold on the tightest, because just beyond the breaking point, just past the place where we think we cannot go on, is where the transformation happens. Think of a seed buried beneath the ground. To the outside world, it looks like nothing, just dirt, just darkness, just emptiness. But beneath the surface, something is happening. Something is breaking, something is growing, something is pushing its way toward the light. And in time, what was once unseen bursts forth in beauty, in strength, in purpose. That is the process of pain. It buries us, yes. It breaks us, yes. But it also prepares us for something greater. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in life come not in moments of comfort, but in moments of deep struggle. Some of the most powerful awakenings happen in seasons of pain, because suffering has a way of forcing us to confront what we would rather ignore. It strips away what is unnecessary, what is superficial, what is temporary, and it leaves us with what is real. It clarifies what matters. It refines our focus. It deepens our faith. It calls forth a strength we never knew we had. And when we emerge on the other side, we do not emerge empty-handed. We emerge with wisdom, with resilience, with a new understanding of who we are and what we are capable of. We emerge with a testimony, a story, a light that has the power to guide others out of their own darkness. Because there will always be someone walking a path we have already traveled, someone drowning in the same pain we once thought would consume us. And when they see that we made it through, when they see that we found purpose on the other side of suffering, it gives them hope that they can too. That is why we cannot keep our pain to ourselves. We cannot bury it, hide it, pretend it never happened. Because our story is not just for us. It is for the ones who are still struggling, still searching, still trying to find their way through. It is for the ones who need to know that their pain is not permanent, that their suffering is not without meaning, that their wounds can be turned into something beautiful. It is easy to look at our pain and see only the loss, only the hardship, only the sorrow. But what if we dared to see more? What if we dared to believe that even in the midst of suffering, something good is being formed? What if we trusted that the struggles we face today are preparing us for something we cannot yet see? There are moments in life when everything changes. Moments when we realize that the things we thought would destroy us were actually shaping us. Moments when we look back and see that every detour, every heartbreak, every disappointment was leading us somewhere we never would have reached on our own. Those moments do not come in the midst of ease. They come in the aftermath of struggle, in the wake of pain, in the stillness that follows the storm. And so when the pain comes, and it will, do not fear it. Do not run from it. Do not waste it. Lean into it. Learn from it. Let it shape you, refine you, strengthen you. Let it carve out within you a depth, a wisdom, a resilience that nothing can take away. And then, when you have walked through the fire and come out stronger, do not keep that strength to yourself. Use it, share it, shine it for others to see. Because pain, when placed in the right hands, does not just break, it builds. It does not just wound, it heals. It does not just take, it gives. And when we allow it to do its work, when we trust that it is leading us somewhere greater, we find that what was once our deepest sorrow becomes the very thing that propels us into our greatest purpose. Pain changes us. It shifts the way we see the world, the way we move through it, the way we carry ourselves. It marks us, leaves traces of itself on our souls, reminds us of where we have been. There are moments when it feels unbearable, moments when we wish we could go back to the way things were before we knew the weight of suffering. But once you have walked through pain, you are never the same. And maybe that is not a curse, but a gift. Maybe the breaking is what allows us to be remade. Maybe the wounds are what allow us to feel more deeply, to love more fully, to live more completely. We were never meant to remain untouched by struggle. We were never promised a life free from hardship, but we were promised that the pain would not be wasted, that the suffering would not be for nothing, that the wounds would not be in vain. And when we look back, when we trace the path we have walked, we begin to see it. The moments when we thought we were being torn apart were actually the moments we were being put back together in a new way. The seasons we thought would destroy us were actually the seasons that shaped us into who we were meant to be. Pain teaches us things that ease never could. It teaches us what matters. It teaches us who we are. It teaches us what we are capable of surviving. It strips away the unnecessary, the temporary, the things we once thought we needed but now realize were never truly essential. And in that stripping away, we are left with something pure, something true, something real. There is a power in survival. A power in looking back at the things that should have broken you and realizing that they didn't. A power in standing where you once fell, in walking where you once crawled, in breathing freely when you once thought you never would again. That kind of power cannot be bought, cannot be taught, cannot be given. It is earned, it is forged in the fire, built in the struggle, refined in the suffering. And once you have it, no one can take it from you. But survival is not enough. It is not enough to simply make it through, to come out on the other side, to endure. Because pain is not just something to escape. It is something to transform, something to use, something to build upon. And that is where so many get stuck. They survive the fire, but never step into the purpose it was meant to ignite. They carry their wounds, but never allow them to heal into something greater. They hold on to the pain instead of turning it into something powerful. The world does not need more people who have merely survived. It needs people who have been broken and have chosen to rise anyway. People who have known suffering and have chosen to love anyway. People who have walked through darkness and have chosen to be light anyway. That is the true transformation of pain, not just escaping it, but using it. Not just surviving it, but allowing it to shape something new. There is someone right now who is facing the same battle you have already fought. Someone who is drowning in the same pain you once thought would consume you. Someone who needs to know that there is life on the other side of suffering, that there is hope beyond the heartbreak, that there is purpose even in the pain, and maybe, just maybe, you are the one meant to show them. Maybe your survival was never just about you. There are things within you that could not have been formed any other way. strengths that could not have been discovered in comfort, wisdom that could not have been gained in ease, depth that could not have been reached without struggle. And that is not to say that pain is good or that suffering is something to seek out. It is simply to say that when it does come, and it always does, we have a choice to let it harden us or to let it shape us, to let it close us off or to let it open us up, to let it break us or to let it build us. The greatest tragedies in life are not the struggles themselves, but the refusal to grow from them, the refusal to learn from them, the refusal to allow them to make us better, wiser, kinder, stronger. Because suffering is inevitable, but transformation is a choice. And if we must endure the pain, then let it not be for nothing. Let it not be wasted. Let it not be buried beneath bitterness or regret. Let it be turned into something beautiful, something meaningful, something that changes not just us, but the world around us. Because that is the true purpose of pain, not just to shape us, but to equip us, not just to teach us, but to prepare us, not just to break us, but to build within us something that cannot be shaken. And when we embrace that, when we stop seeing our struggles as the end of the story and start seeing them as the beginning of something greater, we step into a power that nothing and no one can take away. There is no suffering without purpose, no hardship without meaning, no pain that cannot be transformed into something greater, but we must be willing to trust the process. To believe that even when we cannot yet see it, something good is being formed. To understand that the things that once threatened to destroy us may very well be the things that lead us to exactly where we were always meant to be. Pain is never the end of the story. It is the beginning of transformation, the forging of something greater, the shaping of a purpose that could not have been formed in ease. Every wound carries within it the potential for wisdom. Every trial, the opportunity for strength. Every heartbreak, the seeds of a deeper love. The struggles that once seemed unbearable are not meant to define us by our suffering, but to refine us into something more powerful than before. We are not called to simply endure pain, but to rise from it, to learn from it, to use it for something greater than ourselves. And when we do, we become a light for those still lost in the darkness. We become proof that survival is not the goal, transformation is. That even the deepest pain can be turned into purpose, and that no struggle is ever wasted.